for the opportunity to comment on the statements on the floor. Mr. Speaker, both speakers from the other side are missing one thing, and that is they had read Mr. Speaker, if they had read paragraph 6 of the minister's statement, they would have realized that the minister said, yes, the total inflow for 2020 was 19.3 billion. And out of that, they used some to directly fund COVID-19 expenditures, and others were indirectly. One, on the expenditure side, we allocated 1.16 billion. And directly. And Mr. Speaker, the difference of 8.1 billion was what we used to shore up the budget. You remember we came to this house and revised the expenditure, revised the revenue numbers by close to 11.1 billion as a result of the effects of COVID. So the difference between the 11.1 and the 19.3 is what we used to shore up the budget. If you revise your revenue numbers down by 11.1 billion and you shore it up with a difference of 8.1 billion, clearly you've accounted for the 19.3 billion. And then I want to also go to page 5. I also want to go to page 7, paragraph 19. And it was quoted that the president said they had spent 8.1 billion on COVID-19 funds. When you come to page 6, clearly it is correct. You see it here that what we utilize, what we spent, what we utilize is actually 8.1 billion. So clearly, today the minister has put to rest the inconsistencies being said or yes by our minority brothers and sisters. And today it is very clear that we have been consistent. Yes, it was 19.3 billion that came in. We have been able to account for the 19.3 billion. 8.1 billion was used directly for COVID-19 expenditure, and the difference was used to shore up the revenue numbers that dropped. Again, when you go to 2021, we put in the budget an expenditure of 4.6 billion for direct COVID-19 expenditures. And clearly, we've been able to account for the 3.9 billion that we utilized. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't see the need why our colleagues on the other side are asking for a special audit in this. Clearly, the Auditor General at the end of the day will also look into this. This is what we have, and this is what I believe the Auditor General is also going to look at. One thing that I also want to point out that was out there was the specific inflows from the World Bank. Our colleagues on the other side also mentioned in various forums that this was not fully accounted for. Clearly, the $435 million that came from the World Bank has been accounted for on paragraph 11. When you look at it, it says that paragraph 11I, there was a fast track amount of $35 million US. And then when you go to paragraph 11II, it says there was another 65 million which we have accounted for. And paragraph 11III, there's another 130 million US that also came from the World Bank. And in paragraph 12, it says 200 million also came from the World Bank. This we have all accounted for. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy that today we are putting the matter to rest. All the monies that came in 2020, that 19.3 billion, we have accounted for it through the table that has been provided here, where we have 8.1 billion being utilized, and then the difference is what we use to shore up the revenue numbers. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 was a rare thing. We had never seen this before, but yet still, this thinking government thought it wise and saw that the most important thing to do was to save lives and also to protect lives and save the economy. So two things this government did. First was to, in the midst of the pandemic, was to save lives and protect livelihoods. And that is what we did in 2021, and we accounted for it. And then the second was to see how we can revitalize the economy after the negative effects of COVID-19 pandemic. And that is why we also put in 4.6 billion. And then we have accounted for the 3.9 billion that we use. Mr. Speaker, with this, I believe that we have brought the matter to rest. Let's admit that you thought we couldn't account for it, and we have now accounted for it. Let's put it to rest and then move on. The Auditor General at the end of the day will also come and account for We also go through the books and account for every money that we have spent on COVID-19, both directly and indirectly. So, Mr. Speaker, we thank you for this opportunity to tell the whole of Ghana that clearly these monies came in and this is how we have utilized it. So I believe that from today, let us admit that we erred in telling Ghanaians that we have squandered the money. Clearly, it is all clear here that we have the money, we have used it, we have utilized it for the benefit of Ghanaians, and that is why, by God's grace, we did not see what we saw in other countries. If we had sat down and done nothing, maybe the effect would have been bad. But thanks be to God that He gave us our president in the person of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and that is how come we are seeing the results we are seeing here. Let's admit it when it's right. When it's right, let us learn to admit it, that it is right. If it is wrong, we understand. But clearly, the way Ghana handled COVID, including its expenditures, is something that everybody can attest to it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.